Welcome to the Destination Saratoga All Access Podcast, brought to you by Discover Saratoga. And here is your host, Mackenzie Zarzicki.
This episode is sponsored by Finney Design Group.
Welcome back to Destination Saratoga All Access, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes with the people shaping Saratoga County's vibrant culture, rich history, and thriving community. I'm your host, Mackenzie Zarzicki. If you missed our last episode, be sure to check it out. I sat down with architect Mike Finney at the Coat Room, a beautifully designed space that's reimagining hospitality in downtown Saratoga. Mike talks about his passion for sustainability and how thoughtful design can strengthen a community. Today, I'm beyond excited to welcome two absolute legends in the world of thoroughbred horse racing. Renowned race caller Tom Durkin and Hall of Fame jockey Ramon Dominguez. We talk about their incredible careers, what it means to be inducted into the National Hall of Fame, and why Saratoga Racecourse holds such a special place in their hearts. You're in for a great episode. Now let's get into it. I'm here today with Tom Durkin and Ramon Dominguez, and I am so excited. I've been looking forward to this interview for so long. Thank you guys for being here today. You are legends in my eyes.
Well, you've just lowered the bar for all legends, but thank you.
No way. No way. So we are at the 1863 Club here at Saratoga Racecourse. This is a fairly new building. First time I've ever been in it, so I'm feeling very lucky. But could you tell us a little bit about the building or the history of the racetrack?
History of the racetrack? Okay, well, we got a half-hour show, and it started in 1863. I mean, so.
A brief history. And that's great because that's why it's named this,
That's
right?
why it is. Actually, in 1863, there was a 4-day race meeting held across the street, which is now the Oklahoma track, or where Oklahoma is now. And it was such a great success that they decided to buy up 150 acres across the street where we are right now. And that was on this site since 1864. We've been running horse races.
That's amazing. And this building is absolutely beautiful. But I also love, as we were talking about before we got started, that it still has character. It doesn't look as modern outside as it is inside.
Well, this particular building,
Yeah.
It's just 5 years old, but they did a great job incorporating the architectural motifs to match the rest of the building. And, by the way, before they had this building here, okay, we run in August, there was no air conditioning anywhere. There was
right.
one room.
The Curling Cafe.
No.
What?
My booth.
Oh, special.
My booth. It was the only place that was air conditioned. Consequently, a lot of people got to know that, and so they would come up when on really hot days, and it got to be a pain. So there was this guy and so there was I had a security guard up there, and he had a little section he had to take care of it. And so I told the guy, Joe, I said, Joe, if anybody comes up want to see me, unless you don't know that they're very good friends of mine, just tell them to wait here for a couple minutes while I do stuff. Give me about 10 minutes. And so what I would do on really hot days, I would turn off my air conditioner. Oh. I would take the chairs out of my announcer's booth and put them in a storage room next door. And then when it got good and hot, the people would come in and they go, oh my God, it's so hot in here. How do you do it? And I go, I have to protect my voice. No air conditioning. And then they would leave. And then I was...
That's so smart. I love that.
Or Jock's room was air conditioned up.
It better be.
Yes, and they have always, ever since I've been coming here, I'm sure that back when there was no air conditioning in the rest of the building, perhaps the Jock's room didn't have. I started riding in Delaware Park, which is equally hot, and that's one of the things that the valets, the guys that take care of the jockeys, most of them were jockeys at one point, and they rode in Delaware Park, and they say, you have no idea. It's a historic building and still the same. Extremely hot. They say we rode here when there was no air conditioning, and they'll tell me stuff that they'll do, like putting a towel with the ice to kind of keep themselves cool. But yeah, crazy.
It gets hot in August, that's for sure.
Yeah, Delaware too is just as hot as it is here. Oof. It's low lying, very hot.
Racing season's going to kick off here in a couple weeks. What are you most excited for about the 2025 season?
More of the same. It's just, the races will be good because the races will be great because they always are great. The racing program here is terrific. It's very nice to have the Belmont here. I'm thinking we're probably going to have it here again next year. Not a sure thing, but probably the way construction might be. So it's that to look forward to. And I'm also looking forward, to the day when the Belmont goes back. I really like the meeting to be, the 5.5 weeks that we've come to expect and appreciate. So, but, it's nice to have the Belmont here for a couple of years, and it really picks up the place. And to have a great American classic like that here, in addition to the classics we already have. So, I'm just kind of looking forward to it the way I do every year.
Yeah. What about you?
Same. I mean, every day here is an amazing day to come, whether it is watching from TV or coming to the races and watching these amazing races. Certainly, the Belmont Stakes will be at the center of things that I'm looking forward to see who's going to come to the Belmont and how the race will develop and so on. In addition to attending many different events, and some of them are fundraising events that support or help the backstretch or the industry. Some of these events are across the street at the National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame. I love it there. I certainly have watched a dozen times the film What It Takes, and it's incredible.
I get goosebumps every
love it.
time I watch that film, and you are the storyteller for the video. And
I gotta tell you a story about that. So
sorry.
Years ago, they started that project, this 360-degree, multi-faceted, gorgeous project, $10 million, 360-degree screen. And so the director of the project calls me up and goes, Tom, as you know, we got this $10 million project, the video, and we're looking to have someone do the voice, to narrate the show. And we want someone that, of course, has a good voice. And we want someone that, people really admire and that. So, Tom, we were wondering if you could ask your friend Bob Costas to be the narrator. So Bob narrates it. I got a couple lines I get in there.
Oh no, it's so good. You're in there though, and when you're from Saratoga and you recognize the voice, that means everything. And that video, how long is it?
12 minutes.
12 minutes.
But also on Thursdays, I give tours at the museum. I love being a tour guide.
Yes.
I love.
Thursdays at what time?
11:30.
11:30, and that's all year round?
No,
Just
just
in the
during the
summer.
racing season. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. Make sure you visit the museum. It is a
It's great.
must-see if you are in Saratoga Springs. You get to learn about the Hall of Famers. You get to watch the 11-minute movie, which I kid you not, I get goosebumps every time. And it's just such a beautiful place of Saratoga history. We're so fortunate to have the Racing Museum here in Saratoga Springs.
100%. Yep.
Very cool. So have either of you seen Race for the Crown on Netflix?
I did watch that. I finished watching it last night. Yep.
Yeah? What'd you think?
Mixed feelings. The first 2-3 episodes, I wasn't crazy about. It's certainly entertaining. At the same time, I feel like when I look at it through the eyes of somebody who knows very little about the sport, precisely what I try to educate people or really correct, let's just say, when the people who doesn't know about racing say, isn't that for rich people? And I try to say, no, it's for everybody. That's not really the message there. It's just a lot of flamboyance and a lot of money being thrown around. And that is certainly, is in any industry, there is a segment of people who really have disposable money. But that's not your average owner. And really puts the accessibility of being part of whether it's a syndicate or coming to the races out of reach. And that is not really accurate.
I agree. I didn't particularly care for the first couple episodes, but the last episode, they showed Saratoga Springs, they showed the Belmont Stakes, they showed Belmont on Broadway, and they followed that female jockey around. And for me, that's cool. Every time I can plug a feminist, comment person.
Jackie Davis she's so entertaining.
Katie.
Or Katie Davis.
Yeah.
Katie Davis, so entertaining.
Yes.
So she was great. And she's local. I just thought that whole angle was cool. So I thought it was nice. It put Saratoga on the map from a media national perspective. So it's great that the Belmont will be here again this year. Now here's a quick message from our sponsor. Saratoga Springs, are you ready to really know the Belmont Stakes? Get the insider's edge at Embrace the Belmont 2 on Tuesday, June 3rd at Universal Preservation Hall. You can sound like a racing pro, no experience required. Join MC Donna Brothers of NBC Sports and a panel of experts to get you Belmont ready. Tickets are just $57, a nod to the 157th running of the Belmont Stakes. Tickets include cocktails and small bites. Want the VIP experience? Snag a $157 VIP ticket for exclusive time with our handicappers and local leaders before the main event. Last year's event sold out. Tickets will go fast again this year, so don't miss out. Get your tickets today. And it's all for a great cause. 100% of the proceeds benefit Therapeutic Horses of Saratoga, helping our community through the beauty of horse and human connection. Get your tickets now. Don't miss your chance to embrace the Belmont like a true racing fan. Visit thsaratoga.org or search Embrace the Belmont for tickets. All right, so Ramon, what first drew you to the world of horse racing?
It was a love at first sight when my dad took me to the racetrack. I was very young, 13-year-old, and I watched a live race in a place like this and close from the fence and from the rail, and I watched a race. I remember vividly the jockeys low on their horses, hearing the sound of their hooves hitting the ground, and I just knew right then and there, I said, that's what I want to do. That's why I want to become a jockey one day. And that never really escaped my mind. In fact, kind of continued to grow, and it went from really a big interest to a tremendous passion, and yeah.
So what is it like riding a horse? I mean, I would be very intimidated, but from your perspective, what does it feel like being on the top of a racehorse?
Yes, there is nothing that I can say. There are no words that can really describe accurately what the feeling of not only riding a horse, going fast, but more so to the profession, really I absolutely love and miss being behind a wall of horses. When you have done your job from the early stages of the racing, have your horse relax, and you just know that you have so much horse under you, and you're just kind of waiting for that opening for you to get through. And when that happens, and you get between horses and know that you're going to win the race, is an experience and a feeling like second to none.
I can imagine.
Does it make you feel like you're flying?
Yeah.
Yes and no. So when you breeze a horse in the morning, Tom, especially if it's a fast horse and you kind of give them a cue to pick it up and they go fast, definitely feels like you're flying, especially when the wind is blowing in your face. Now, a lot of that feeling, you completely kind of put aside, and because you're so hyper-focused on what's happening in the moment.
Yeah.
So many things are happening simultaneously that you, again, kind of hyper-aware of your surrounding. What is this guy going to do? What do I have under me? That you're not really present in terms of really feeling how does it feel like to go fast. It's just an incredible rush when you actually give your horse the signal to pick it up and they respond the way you're looking for. And you know that you're going to win the race. It's like, oh, I got this. So,
That's amazing. So you've been a jockey for how long?
I was a jockey for 17 years.
17 years. So you have ridden amongst a lot of the, other famous jockeys out there, right? And you guys travel from racetrack to racetrack. When you're out there, do you know what someone else is going to do? Like, do you guys, you kind of know your plays, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. Great question. And certainly we do travel in obviously when you go to a track where you're going to be competing against guys who you don't do on a frequent basis. Certainly there is this unknown factor that you don't know exactly what they're going to do. But when you compete with jockeys on a daily basis, and there are predictable factors that you know about them, just like you handicap the race and you say, okay, this horse has speed, but typically he stops turning for home. There are certain things about jockeys that you know.
Yeah.
Some of them love to go to the lead, but some of them, as much as they like to go to the lead, they tend to open up the rail. So if you are stuck behind them, you're like, you know what, I'm okay here because he's going to open up the rail. I'm just putting that as an example. So there is this predictability factor that, yes, and jockeys, human beings, we are just like horses, proud of just doing the same thing over and over. And sometimes we can acquire bad habits.
Yeah.
And that's something that you as a jockey learn to capitalize on that.
Yeah, that's very
I could tell, even from my booth, a half a mile away from them at times, just by looking at a jockey through my binoculars a half mile away, I could tell who that jockey was. Ramon was very distinctive. He liked to ride with long reins. A lot of jockeys have a real short rein on a horse, but he let those reins loose a little bit, keeps the horses a little more calmer and whatever. But I can tell one jock from another just by looking at their seat on a horse.
That's amazing.
And one thing that I can also know about Tom, which is amazing, that not only does he know about who the jockey is, but also as the horses are moving towards the later stages of the race, even before they make a big move, just by the positioning of the jockey's hands, he can tell, and so-and-so has a lot of horse. He knows who is ready to really make a big move. Yeah.
What does that mean?
There are a lot of horse means you've got plenty of energy left for your horse.
Okay.
But there are two things that I would look at to see if a horse is moving comfortably. As he mentioned, the jockey's hands.
Yep.
And horse's ears.
Oh, what does the horse's ears tell?
Well,
does it tell?
If they're, when they're like this,
They're scared?
they are in fight mode.
Okay.
Because that was one of their first lines of defense. If like two horses get in a fight, they go for their ears. Like if I go like that, you're going to put your hand in front of your eye.
Yeah, I'm going to protect
That's your
myself.
first line of defense. So their first line of defense
Yeah.
is their ears, so they pin
Okay.
them back. But when their ears are up and they're alert, they're checking it out. And sometimes if you can look at their ears, if you go in the paddock, you look at their ears and their ears are twitching around. They're just checking out everybody around them.
So is that a good sign?
That's a good sign that they're alert. And yeah, if their ears are flopping down, bad sign.
Okay.
Sulking. If their ears are back, they're hyped up and in fight mode.
Okay, so for those of you listening, if you're placing your bets and you're checking out the horses in the paddock and their ears are down, don't bet on them.
And if you
They're panicking.
lose, don't blame me.
Oh, I love that.
Now, here's a quick message from our sponsor. Finney Design Group is a multidisciplinary architecture, interior design, green building consulting, and construction management firm with a focus on sustainable and environmentally responsible construction methods. The group is headquartered in a sustainable green building located on the corner of Beekman Street and Grand Ave in the historic Dublin neighborhood of Saratoga Springs. Also known as the Beekman Street Arts District, they're actually located right above the Local, one of my favorite Irish pubs or taverns in Saratoga Springs. From architecture to interior design, landscape design to land use analysis, urban planning to rural planning, Finney Design Group has a long and accomplished track record of coordinating projects from the design phase through completion and construction, all while maintaining environmentally friendly standards.
So, Ramon, are you friends with any other jockeys? And how does that relationship coexist with all of the competition?
Great question, and really the dynamics inside the jocks room is unlike any other sport. When you think about whether it is basketball, football, you have different locker rooms. You have two different teams,
Yeah.
and they are preparing to really go and defeat the opposition. And in the jocks room, each and every one of us is our own team. And yes, I am preparing myself to defeat everybody. There's going to be one winner, and that's going to be me.
Yeah.
At the same time, when you're in the jocks room, it's crazy. It's brothers among brothers. You care about the other person. And when you are out on the track, although you are, again, strategizing to see how you can win the race, there are the rules, and then there are the unwritten rules. And part of the most important rule, which is an unwritten rule, is this line of safety that you don't cross. You want to win the race, and regardless of how big the purse is and how important the race is, if it comes down to for you to really go for that opening, to really crossing the line where you know that you're going to put in a very dangerous position your fellow rider, you just don't do it. So yeah, it's easier said than done. However, when I explain it, it's easy to understand how complicated this can be. But yes, the jockeys outside the track, we go out and we definitely are sincerely like brothers. But at the racetrack, everybody's for themselves.
Yeah. That's cool. It seems like you have a good relationship with them. You talked about traveling with some of your fellow jockeys, and it's nice that you have that camaraderie. For
Definitely,
sure.
yeah.
So Tom, did you always know you wanted to be a race caller?
Not always. I think when I was a little kid growing up Catholic, I thought being a priest would have been a good idea, even Pope. But when I realized
There's
that...
an opening for Pope right now.
Yes. But I would go to the track, and I just thought that the track announcer in Chicago was just exciting and fun. And I'm a performer at heart. I was an acting major in college and whatever. So it just suited me well. And I was the youngest in my family. So those kids tend to want to get a little attention, and they don't mind
I can relate.
putting on a show. So
I can relate.
a lot of that stuff worked into play. And also I took Latin. I was very good. That was the only subject I was ever good in.
Oh, stop it.
Latin, yeah. And people, and I didn't really think of this until way late in my career, but that helped me memorizing the horses. That's the hardest part of the job. And in Latin, you just have to memorize and memorize and memorize all those declensions, and it was just repetition, and you had to learn how to remember stuff.
You told us a great story before we got started about when you were a little boy watching the race collar, and then how it came full circle with another local race collar. Could you tell us about that?
Yes. Years ago when I was up on the booth here in Saratoga, I would always notice there was a little kid downstairs. He was probably about 10, 12 years old. And he would do the same thing I did when I was a little kid. I go to the track in Chicago at Arlington Park, and I go to the finish line, I wouldn't look at the horses, I'd look up at the announcer. And so eventually I got a letter from him, and I told him, stay in school, study, blah, 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 blah. And he said he wanted to be a racetrack announcer. I said, great. So fast forward about 40 years, and he called the Kentucky Derby last week.
That's amazing.
Travis Stone from Schroon Lake.
Local. That's such a cool story. See, you're so inspirational for so many people.
It's extending it a little bit, but go ahead.
I mean, I think it's amazing. Okay, Ramon, I got a question for you. What was your routine like before a big race? How did you prepare? Did you have any superstitions, any rituals?
Yeah, superstitions, unfortunately, I try to kind of keep them under control, but there are certain things that still apply. One of them is continuing with the crazy things where he said about his memory. I do wear, and I have ever since I rode horses, I wear my underwear inside out.
Wow.
And so does Jerry Bailey,
Oh, I didn't know that.
another Hall of Fame jockey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And when I get out of bed, always my right foot hits the ground first. Wow. When I was riding, I always put my left boot first. And in terms of ritual, regardless of what day it was, you kind of have a routine.
Yeah.
I get up in the morning and kind of look at my schedule for exercising the horses. But I kind of knew what I could eat. I maybe have a cup of coffee, toast, and that was it. And then I'll go exercise the horses, and a certain time go home, get a shower, go to the jockey room, go to the sauna. But prior to that, look at the scratches, and prior to that, also the night before, I will do my handicapping.
Yeah.
Nowadays, in the last, 15 years or maybe longer, we have a monitor in the jockey room where you can look at the replays, which is a great tool. So all of that became a part of my preparation and very important. And it was really, there was no substitute to that. That's something that I did religiously.
Yeah.
When you get into a routine, which is I eventually developed a particular routine about memorizing the horses based on the number 3. But when you get into a routine, it opens up these neural pathways that allow more information to flow into your brain. So you don't have to think about getting out of bed in the morning. You don't have to think about going into that sauna because it is habit. You can't think of two things at the same time. Imagine trying to tie your shoes if you weren't in the habit of doing that. Okay, so you take this, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But when you have habit, it frees, literally, physically frees up your brain to be able to think better.
I never thought about that, but yes, just sort of an autopilot when it comes to the things that you do on a daily basis, and that allows you to focus on all that makes sense.
So how did wearing your underwear inside out become a habit?
Well, this is completely can be blamed, or it is because of my grandfather, rest in peace, amazing man, very Christ and God was first. But oh my God, he was extremely superstitious. I mean, I can tell you superstitious after superstitious, and it wasn't superstitious to him. I'm looking at this table, like for example, if there was breadcrumbs, and one day I'm going like this and say, no, that's picking up misery. You take a little paper and yeah, you don't go like this, just like that, many different things. So he told me just to he said, there is unfortunately a lot of bad energy in people who wishes you bad and wear their underwear inside out, and that sort of repels them. So yeah. Whether it was true or no, I always did it.
I think that's so great. So as a kid growing up, it was like if you wanted a snow day, you wore your pajamas inside out, and then you went to bed, and then you woke up the next day, and there was no school. I like your story way better.
And before I did every race, I had my binoculars up, and I made a sign of the cross on the side of my binoculars.
I love that.
Wonderful.
And I also had the first thing I did every day when I got to the track, I wrote 3 words on the top of the program. Energy, energy, energy. And those were 3 words that my acting teacher, Kelly Collum, taught me about most important thing in acting is to have energy, energy, energy.
Yes.
And if you ask any of my students at where I'm teaching public speaking now at Spa Catholic, if you ask anyone, what are the 3 most important things about giving a speech? Energy, energy, energy.
That's great. Well, you certainly have a lot of energy when you were calling in the booth because you have such a distinct style that I think it's worked for you. I enjoy listening to you, and I think a lot of people do. I mean, you are, like I said in the beginning, legendary for horse racing. So it's worked in your favor.
Oh, good. Well, we like energy. It's good.
I love it. So what, if you have one, this is a tough question probably, what is your favorite racehorse? Or the favorite maybe that you rode or that you called or long before?
I'll let Tom go first.
I suppose Cigar. Ooh. You know, I called him winning 16 races in a row.
Watch the start as Tom Durkin has the classic call. Unbeatable Cigar!
So it's hard to really pick your favorites because I've seen so many great horses over the career. But if you got to narrow it down to one, and if you had to, but there's so many other ones.
Yeah.
I do agree. It is extremely difficult to pick one horse. I mean, for me, it's not only the horses that accomplished the most or that really were instrumental in my accomplishments on the racetrack, but when you think about having ridden 21,000 races, and a lot of those were different horses, certainly they all have an important place in my career and in my heart. Now, when I think of horses, one that stands out, and it's not necessarily because he was the best, he was the best athlete that I rode. And he was a sprinter, a horse that really people don't hear much about because there is a lot more focus on these longer races. But his name was Fabulous Strike. He won among a few good races. He won the Bashford when it was a Grade 1, and he just was a long, tall horse that if you look at him, he looked like a horse that will go long, and he was extremely fast. He ran 6 furlongs, and he will go out of the gate, go 21, and Tom Durkin called him one time when he went, he says, Fabulous Strike just went 43-3.
Ramon Dominguez has just won 6 races today.
He went 55, 107, I mean, extremely fast fraction, but it's not only about being fast. When he got to the quarter pole, which is time to now go, and I was just kind of waiting, he'll give me the feeling that he was relaxed, which after you go that fast, you cannot be relaxed.
Yeah.
And then I will ask him because, hey, they're coming, and he will re-brake, go again. So it just something that was not natural, certainly a unique athlete. So that's my one horse that when I think of amazing horses, that was him, yeah.
That is such a cool story. It sounds like you're really one with the horse when you're out there. How do you build that relationship and trust, especially when you ride so many different horses throughout the season?
Yeah, good question. And there are many things that become standard, and because unlike what people think that you bond with your horse, you know them from the morning, the reality is a lot of the horses and most horses that I rode, I had never even seen before.
Wow.
So you come to the paddock and you do have roughly 10 minutes before the race to get to know that horse. And in those 10 minutes, you get to know a lot about the horse. Sometimes I was one that I like to go away from the pony. The pony is the horse that is escorting you to the starting gate.
Yep.
And I will give them an open gallop. And there was a reason to do that, just they will perform better. But in addition to that, you will get to know the horse. If the horse was really on their bridle, like really pushing, like okay, this is a horse that is going to try a little too hard.
Yeah.
So you kind of knew from the very first jump to take a hold and say, no, buddy, we need to relax because it's a long race. Or if the horse is actually the opposite, where they're a little too laid back, you're like, okay, maybe I can give them a better gallop to kind of get them awakened and just be ready for the race.
Yeah.
So things like that, they will give you certain signals that will tell you a little bit about the horse and how they may behave in the race. But even with all this information, sometime in the race, they completely change, and you, with your experience, having done it over and over, you need to be able to make changes in a fraction of a second, but definitely being attuned into what the horse is feeling, what they're doing, is really the secret, because you are listening to them, and the overall goal here is for them to relax the first part, regardless of where they are, regardless of the distance, for them to finish up the last part of the race.
Yeah, like I was telling you earlier about looking at horses when the races were running. Mm-hmm. You can tell how the horse. I look at their ears, and so do you.
100%. So a horse will come out of the starting gates, and if it's a horse, as I was describing, that it's really eager.
Yeah.
When they come out of the starting gate, sometimes their ears are really far back, and it's a signal. There are multiple reasons, as Tom described before. Sometimes they're fighting. But one of the reasons they may have their ear back, especially coming out of the starting gate, is because they're really trying really hard. They're like fighting to go forward. And that's not really what you want. You want them to, great that you have a lot of energy, great that you want to go, but we need to relax. And that decision in being able to identify the body language must happen right away.
Yeah.
It's not second jump, third jump, because by then they're gaining too much momentum, and maybe it's a little too late because now you fall into a fight with the horse. Hey, relax. So when you realize and when you're able to capture that body language from the first jump and you take a hold, they don't like you to be restraining them. And when you take pressure in their mouth and like, relax, there is a point where it's sort of like a tug of war, because they're resenting that, and they will let go of the pressure slightly, and you feel that, and right away you release that pressure, and it's sort of like the reward, and they're like, okay, he's not fighting me, and you might feel them go like, and if that happens, I got you. That's exactly what I wanted. Relax. We're gonna just wait until the end.
That's amazing. Now here's a quick message from our sponsor. I want to take a moment to talk about the Coat Room, Saratoga's best kept secret and speakeasy. Tucked away on Broadway, the Coat Room brings a cozy, intimate vibe with handcrafted cocktails, gourmet bites, and top-notch service. Whether you're unwinding after a long day or just starting for a big night out, this is your invitation to step back in time and dine in style. Hosting a celebration or special gathering, the Coat Room is also available for private events. No password needed, just follow the coats. For hours, menus, and upcoming events, visit thecoatroom.com. Do you think the horses like to race?
Yes, the nature of the horse is really to run. That's what they do in the wild, and it's no different at the racetrack. And however, when it comes to riding that horse, it is important because it can change drastically given their personalities. Mm-hmm. Horses are no different than people. Some horses will just run as much or as fast as they have to. So therefore, you have to be like, dude, let's just go a little bit faster. So you need to be able to sense that even in the post period in the race. And some horses just like, yes, let's run. Like those kids that just want to run. So those are those type of horses. And you need to be able to monitor or to be able to bring them down to relax the first part. So there are horses that certainly with time, after running so many times, they become really not so interested.
Yeah.
And that's when a good horseman, a trainer is able to tell, or should be able to tell, you know what, we have done everything that we can. The horse is healthy. The horse is really, there's no reason for him not to want to run anymore, but for some reason he doesn't want to do it. And that's when time for them to retire and hopefully look for a second career where they can flourish, whether it is as a trail horse or a trail riding horse or doing sometimes show jumping, many different things. So for the most part, horses absolutely love to run and they look forward to run,
Do you think 3-year-olds is young to race? I know there's always a lot of controversy about if they're too young, if they want to run, all of those things. But in terms of human years, that's what, like a teenager.
Yeah.
Do you think that's too young or just the right age?
So yes, that is a question that depending on who you ask, you'll get a very different answer. So it is not a 3-year-old. The horses start in the United States running as a 2-year-old.
Okay.
And I asked somebody who I respect this question, actually somebody who is from Europe, where they typically start when they are 3 years old to run. And I was coming from a perspective already of, I think that they should really start when they are 3. And I believe that I was given really an accurate and a very informed answer, which was that the issue is not whether the horse starts when they're 2 or 3. Is if they start when they're 2, it depends. Some horses are still growing and maturing, and perhaps physically they are not really ready to run as a 2-year-old. And again, that's when the trainer is able to tell, we're gonna just do light training and let them continue to grow. Some horses at 2, they are fully developed. At the end of the day, the horses most undergo these stresses that we call breezes, that they go fast, because these stress create microfractures in their bone that actually ultimately make a stronger bone. So even if you say, you know what, I don't think it's good to run them as a 2-year-old, we're gonna wait until they're 3.
Yeah.
Regardless if they're 3 now, they will still have to undergo that stress for this bone to become stronger.
Okay.
So to summarize, the question is whether 2 or 3 is the right age, is when it is for that specific individual.
Okay.
And if the horse still going through this growth spurt where their knees is an indicator if they're not close, and maybe it calls for you to give them some time off and let them grow, so maybe 2-3 months. So it's on a case basis. It's not really just this is the way it should be.
Yeah, horse by horse basis. I mean, if you were to talk about basketball and think about LeBron James going into the NBA 18 years old, he's young, but he was fully grown. Like, he was a big dude.
Michael Jordan did not make his high school basketball team.
That's crazy.
So horses, when they're 3-year-olds, they are kind of like teenagers, but they are not fully mature at age 3. Certainly not in the springtime of their 3-year-old season. Yeah.
So when they're born, they're all January, right? There's not. How does the age go?
No, that they can be born any time of the year. They typically breed them for them to be born the beginning of the year. However, at January 1st, no matter if you were born December 31st, January 1st is your birthday for all the horses.
That's amazing. Of all athletes out there, I feel like you have the hardest job because most athletes only have to take care of themselves. Am I mentally prepared? Do I do this? You're controlling an animal. And an animal has its own brain, its own, ambition, goals, adrenaline, all of those things. It's crazy. Do you ever feel like scared or, I don't know, it's just so amazing.
Yeah. So the scare is something that certainly in the beginning of your career, when you're an apprentice, there is a lot of tension, a lot of anxiety. And that's something that, like anything else, the more you do it, the more comfortable you become. You are always sort of on your toes because although you learn to perform your craft by doing it over and over. So sort of like golfing, you don't think about, okay, how is it that I'm going to swing? You kind of know how to swing the club. Same thing riding, you kind of know what to do. You also, as you said, taking care of your horse and really in tune as to what the horse is doing and what you want him to do.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, you are also super aware of your surrounding.
Yeah.
Because it's not just a race between you and your horse. Yes, that is the absolutely focus. You must maximize the chances of this horse to become for the first part and to finish strong. But at the same time, you need to be aware of the pace. You
Yeah.
need to be aware of who is beside me. Is this guy one that tends to try to keep me in here? Or that horse in front, that horse tends to stop. So I need to start working out my way out because I don't want to be behind him when it's time for me to run because he's
Yeah.
going to be coming into me. So many different things that is just not your horse, yourself, but also all of these third party of these different people who are surrounding you.
That is a lot to think about in a matter of 60 seconds? How long does it usually take to get around?
Depends on how long the race is. Kentucky Derby is 2 minutes.
Okay.
That's a long race.
That's a lot to think about in that. And how many races do you usually do in one day?
So I did as many as 8, 9, 10 races. My year that I rode the most races, I rode over 1,600 races in 1 year.
Wow, that's amazing. And you have been calling for, you said, you called for 40 years.
42 years.
42 years. Wow.
From 1971 to 2014.
That's amazing. And other than Saratoga, what other racetracks did you call at?
Again, I'll ask you this question. How long is this show going to last?
The shorter of
Okay.
the answer.
6 countries, probably 25 racetracks in America.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
I had to say something that he won't say. He might find it irrelevant, but it's really relevant, which he talks about how incredible he is as a race caller. After my retirement, I have gotten a lot into track and field. I love running and I follow the sport. And I said to him, I was watching one of the Olympics and I was like, oh my God, these people are doing a very poor job calling this race. I mean, it was like a big gap in between comments. And I said to Tom, you should be calling the Olympics. And he said, and I'll tell you, I'll let him finish.
Yeah. There was talk that they wanted me to do the track and field races, and I couldn't do it because that's when Saratoga was running in August. That's when they had the Olympics. So, frankly, I'd rather be in Saratoga.
Oh, the loyalty. I love it. I love it. Saratoga over the Olympics. You heard it here first.
Long live Saratoga!
Thank you for tuning in to today's conversation with Tom Durkin and Ramon Dominguez at the beautiful 1863 Club. Have a guest or a topic in mind? We'd love to hear from you. Send us an email at podcast@discoversaratoga.org. Until next time, keep exploring, and we hope to see you in Saratoga.
Please like, subscribe, rate, or review our show. Thank you.
This episode is sponsored by Finney Design Group. This podcast is brought to you by Discover Saratoga, the official tourism promotion agency of Saratoga County, produced by Bright Sided Media, with video by Iron Glass Productions, and special thanks to Lift Marketing for their continued support.